So I'm going to talk to you today about what we call our bucket strategy. And the bucket strategy talks about the way to allocate your money between a spending category and a saving and investing category. Today, though, we're going to focus more on the saving and investing side of the bucket. So when you get a paycheck, you can think about cash comes into a bucket. It's your paycheck bucket. It's your bank account, right? From there, you're going to distribute that into money you're going to spend and into money you're going to save or invest. Saving is more short term, investing is more long term. We're going to talk about some of the buckets that fall under, you might call them sub buckets, that fall under the saving and investing side. And so we're going to show you a graphic up here that kind of walks you through the few main categories or the few main buckets that you would want to fill in approximately the order you would want to fill them in. So under saving and investing, you'll notice that there's emergency fund and HSA. So emergency fund, this is the money you want to put aside, starting with a small attainable amount and growing ultimately to maybe 3 to 6 months of expenses. So maybe you start with $1,000 if you don't have it already. And ultimately you want to get this funded to 3 to 6 months of your expenses to provide in case something goes wrong. If you lose your job, you have a disability, you have a medical issue, and so that's the ultimate goal, but that can be a big deal to try to get 3 to 6 months of expenses. So start with something. An HSA or a health savings account also falls under this. Ultimately, you could say that might fall under the investing category depending on the balance that you would get in your HSA, but your employer might offer you an HSA. They might not. We can talk more details about that later, but emergency funds and HSA is kind of your medical emergency fund, would fall generally under this first bucket. We want to make sure these things are funded first. Next comes a large purchase account. So the large purchase account would be pre-funding expenses that we already know we're going to spend or we think we're going to spend in the near future. You'll notice that each of these lines is above that saving and investing line. So this is savings still that we're talking about. These would be things that probably we're buying over the next 2 or 3 years. Sometimes you could say it's a 4 or 5 year plan, but we're getting the emergency fund in case of things that are unplanned. Same with the HSA. And the large purchase account is saving money for what is planned. So, hey, we're saving up to buy some furniture. We're saving up to do an addition on the house. We're saving up to buy a car, things like that. The emergency fund is we're driving and our engine blows out and we need to buy an engine that we didn't plan for. Now we dip into the emergency fund. But once we do that, now our large purchase account might begin replenishing the emergency fund so that it's now fully funded again. Okay. Now let's jump into investing. Once you get beyond a time horizon of a few years, we're now talking more about investing, right? You can't just set the money under your mattress, put it in your safe, or put it in a bank because you're just not getting enough growth or potential growth. Now we're talking about a 401k or a 403b. So these are the company retirement plans that almost certainly you have. If you don't have, we can talk about that, but most of you have a corporate retirement plan at your job that you can put money in. You want to be funding this at least, at a very minimum, up to the match where the employer provides, or to match the dollar amounts they put in if it's not technically a match. Sometimes this is 3, 4, 5, 6% of your pay that you would want to be putting in at a minimum. I'm not saying stop there, but that's a starting point to make sure you're getting the free money that your employer might be putting in automatically or as a match. The next bucket you want to do, once you've done that at least minimum allocation to the corporate retirement plan, so your dollars to keep forever, would be an IRA and a Roth IRA. And so those are things you do outside of your company. Has nothing to do with your job at all. You can open up an account anywhere. TD Ameritrade, Vanguard, Schwab, Robinhood, E-Trade, all these different places. Wherever you're comfortable or wherever you have an account currently, you can open up an IRA or Roth IRA. And the limits change every year. And if you are over 50 years old, there's an extra $1,000 catch up. But Go look up the current limits and you can figure out exactly how much you can put in, but you'll be able to get $6,000-$7,000 a year into these accounts, given some other, there's always nuances with tax law. Most likely you and or your spouse will be able to contribute the maximum to those accounts additionally. Next, and finally, from the investing standpoint, we talk about if we've already funded our emergency fund, we've already funded our HSA, we funded some large purchase accounts, we got the match going into our 401k, we are looking at an IRA or Roth IRA. Now we're getting to the other things. So there's college funding. A lot of you may say, well, gosh, I want to be planning for college. Yes, it's true. You can't borrow for your retirement. You can borrow for college. Not encouraging you to do that, but I'm saying it's an option. Your kids can pay for themselves. Your kids can borrow, or you can borrow to pay for their college. But we have to be funding our retirement along the way because you can't borrow for that. So college funding would come near the end of this, and taxable investing. So that's if you've already maxed out all these different things and you're putting aside money in all these areas, all these buckets, taxable investing, or really after tax brokerage accounts is the next place to be investing. So this is the bucket strategy. There's not a lot to it, but it is important to remember the difference between saving and investing, and to think about the way these buckets should be probably prioritized. We're always happy to help talk a little bit more about your specifics, but this is a general guide, and we hope it's been helpful.